survive, people that appreciate life, people that hold life to be something that is special. And that's why when someone gets sick or if something bad happens, then one of the things that we learn from those particular events of our life is we learn to be more appreciative of the life that we have, and we're more thankful for the life that we have. And sometimes it's not about fancy. It's not about a bigger house or a faster car or more clothes. It's just about a quality of life. The Gospel of Mark is different from all the other Gospels that were written. And I suppose the reason that it's different is because it was written to the Romans. And the Romans were people that treasured life, and that life was important to them. And so in the Gospel of Mark, you see this fast-paced events that happen and occur very quickly. It's the shortest gospel. It's because Mark left out a lot of the details of things and just included in his gospel what he thought the Romans would need. He skips the birth of Christ. The Romans, unlike the Jews, they didn't need to know about his genealogy. They didn't care about his genealogy. You know what they cared about? What kind of life does this man live? What kind of life did he live when he was on this earth? And so we move from one event to the next event, and here's what we see as we look through the Gospel of Mark. In Mark, we see that the whole city gathered together. They wanted to see Jesus. There was a reason that the whole city gathered together. The reason that they'd come together is because for some reason Jesus had something that they wanted. Mark chapter 1 and verse 37. Peter and his friends are looking for Jesus, and when they find him, here's what they say. They said to him, "Everyone is looking for you." And I suppose that's the story of Mark. Everyone is looking for you because they want something from you. And they came to Jesus because they thought he was the only one that could give them exactly what they wanted. And when you get to the 10th chapter in verse 35, some of the disciples of Jesus come to him and they say, "Here's what we want. We want this from you. We want you to do whatever we ask you to do." That's kind of like a blank check, isn't it? I want you to sign your name on the bottom of the check and then give me the check and I'll take it to the bank and I'll fill in the amount. Well, that's what they're doing to Jesus. They're saying to Jesus, "We want you to do whatever you ask, whatever we ask you to do." Maybe your children have asked you that before. "Well, what do you want me to do?" That's how we would respond. "What do you want me to do?" We want to know before we make a commitment, don't we? But they want Jesus to make the commitment. And then they'll tell him exactly what they want. And so Jesus responds like we would. And he says, "What do you want me to do for you?" And sometimes when we read the Gospels, and especially the Gospel of Mark, sometimes we don't even pay attention to the pronouns. But the pronouns are important, and it's important that we understand this. That when you read the "they," Mark is actually telling us about us. They is actually you and me. And the things that he says and the stories that he gives us about Jesus is not just about Jesus. It's about us. And you know what we learn from the book of Mark, the Gospel of Mark? We learn that people come all the time. And they come to Jesus in a lot of different ways. What do you want from me? And what's interesting is that we as human beings, basically, we all want the same thing. There were some people that wanted food. In fact, in the Gospel of Mark, here's what you find. You find that there were 5,000. And guess what they wanted from Jesus? Guess why they were following him? They were following him, and he understood this. There was no hidden agenda here. They were following him because they wanted food. And so he fed them with 5 loaves and 2 fishes. And then there was 4,000 in Mark chapter 8. And they ate with only 7 loaves. 4,000 people. You know why they wanted food from Jesus? Because they were hungry. And these people hadn't eaten in several days, and they were extremely hungry. And Jesus didn't say to them, well, you should have planned better. You should have known that we were going to be out here in this deserted place and there wouldn't be any place to get food that won't ruin. And then we have this freezer and we had to, I hate to say this, but we had to throw away some corn that we'd had for 3 years when we defrosted the freezer. And I've always asked God, please take care of me and help me to be able to feed my family. You know what I've always wanted from Jesus? I've wanted food. And you know what I've always had? I've always had food. He's always blessed me. He's always given me that food. And sometimes as human beings, that's what we want. We want food from Jesus. There were some people that came to Jesus, and you know what they wanted? They wanted to be healed. And that shouldn't surprise us at all. You've been sick. What do you want when you get sick? You want to be healed, don't you? You want to get better. Well, here's a man that was a leper that came to Jesus in the Gospel of Mark, and Jesus cleansed him. There was a man that had palsy, and he came to Jesus, and guess what he found? He found healing for the disease that was ruining his body. And once that started happening,